weeks now, but as I'm sure most of you are aware, Magic didn't make that a possibility for the first few weeks of M19 being released. Let me check make sure. All right, cool. So we got everything up and rolling. Yeah, so I am a huge fan of Nexus of Fate. I was a big fan when it got spoiled. I felt like the card was pretty insane, um, and I think it's a really sharp card that just kind of is pushing the boundaries of its card type. So we have a lot of cards that say take an extra turn after this one. That is an entire modern deck built around it. You normally don't see many of them in standard at one time, and when you do, in recent years, they've been really expensive. It hasn't been since I think the Zendikar block that we've had a sub 6 mana extra turn spell, and that was Time Warp in one of the core sets. I believe it was M15, M14, something like that. But even in then, it was people were just doing silly things with it. But this one, we get the 7 mana take an extra turn effect. So a lot of them are 6 mana. So why do we pay the extra mana? And it is simply that we get to do this at instant speed, and that is one of the biggest aspects of the card. So we'll bring a little pop out view over here just to make sure it's easy for people to see the card. So Nexus of Fate, take an extra turn after this one. If Nexus of Fate will be put into graveyard from anywhere, you shuffle it into its owner's library instead. The card is just awesome because people can't make us discard it, people can't make us mill it. So a lot of the blue-white control decks, their only way to really win the game is Teferi. They just kind of make you run out of cards, and they cycle their own Teferi. Well, now we have this Nexus of Fate that makes us capable of cycling our own card. And so now, we can find a way to stack up a infinite set of turns and eventually scrape together a win through those longer games. But also our opponents can't duress this out of our hand. They can if we're about to cast it to make us not be able to take an extra turn, but we also don't lose the resource because it shuffles. So this deck is... it's a different list than what you saw at the Pro Tour. I did a deck tech on MTG Deck Techs on YouTube about the Bant decks that were floating around. Some of them were more controlling, some of them were more streamlined, but they were all Bant Fog decks, and they wanted to take extra turns in the form of fogging damage. This one is a little bit more emphasized on just kind of going off. It kind of plays out more like a combo deck. We get Jaya Ballard, previously thought to be a terrible planeswalker, but whenever your deck is all spells, she's actually pretty good. So you can add 3 mana of add 3 red mana to your mana pool, and that will allow you to cast only instants or sorceries. You can +1, or you can discard up to 3 cards and then draw that many cards. So that effect's really cool because, when you start getting extra lands and they're flooding, your syncopates are worse, you're in a control matchup and you find that your harness lightnings and braids don't do anything, you can loot them, and the ability to... We've had a lot of discard X, draw that many. Discarding 3, drawing 3 is a really strong effect. You get to see a lot of your deck, and you find Nexus of Fate faster. Another kind of combo aspect is Primal Amulet. Let's see if we can make this one a little bit bigger. So Primal Amulet is going to be... a 4-mana artifact. It lets you cast instant sorceries for 1 less. And whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, you put a charge counter on it. After 4 counters, you flip it, and it will tap for 1 mana of any color. And when you use that mana to cast a spell, you get to copy the spell. So really, ideally, you're using the front half to play a lot of your draw spells and your interaction to control opponent's board stances and get on the board and survive. And then use the back half to whenever you cast an Nexus of Fate, you're actually casting 2. And so you get to take 2 additional turns after this one, and that's when you really start storming. The deck kind of has a pretty streamlined rest of the shell. It just plays like a blue-red control deck. So we have cards such as a Singleton or Braid. I would love to see more of those. Harness Lightnings, Fight with Fires. That's kind of how we're going to win a lot of our games. Sweltering Suns, 4 for the aggro decks, but we can cycle them against control. Supreme Will, 4 Glimmer of Genius to find our pieces. Commit to Memory to Time Twister if we have a lot of pieces in the graveyard we want to bring back, or if we want to go back to 7 cards. And then our sideboard, we have just a bunch of control interaction with Negates and Torrential Gearhulks, and then creature-based deck interactions with Magma Sprays, Hour Devastations, Whirler. Whirler can also come in against control as it is a clock that they normally will board out their answers for. They're going to take out their fogs and their board wipes. And so now this Whirler Virtuoso between Harness Lightning, Aether Hub, and Glimmer of Genius can actually generate a fair number of Thopters. So the deck looks sweet. I saw somebody playing it on, I think it was Ironblood, streaming it on Arena. And so we're just kind of running a version of it. The main deck I think is the same. Sideboard is just a sideboard I saw somebody else post elsewhere, because obviously in Arena you don't get a sideboard. I would like to see a few changes, but before I start tinkering with it, I really like to test out the deck first because he was doing pretty well with it. So the sideboard has some of the cards I want to see with Hour of Devastation. I would love to see more Braids in the list. If Godfarer's Gift goes up, that's definitely something you want to do. And you have Jace's Defeats that you could run. You can run Hieroglyphic Illuminations, pull from Tomorrow's if you want more controlling package. I've also looked into this kind of deck where we just barely splash black mana and just a few dual lands and like a Singleton Swamp for whenever we Field a Ruin or something along those lines. And we can run things like Scarab God or Nicobolus the Dragon if we really want to. But right now, the upside of our main deck is all these creature interaction that a lot of decks are running. Fogs, removal spells are all just dead. They don't do anything to us because the fog decks all stop combat damage. So Fight with Fire isn't combat damage. The interaction that's really important to understand is Primal Amulet. Whenever you flip it, if you kick a Fight with Fire, it will copy that aspect, so you get to deal 20 damage to your opponent. So you could just one-hit them. So the deck seems pretty sweet. We are going to jump into a league. We're going to jump into a friendly league, just so we can get a chance to test this out. Oh, that's modern. We don't want modern. I'll check modern. Let's go standard. Friendly standard league. I want to be able to test the deck and not get as concerned about what's happening with wins and losses. So, or not wins and losses, but like time. Because this deck, similar to other control decks I've noticed when I'm streaming, clock can be a concern. So you have to keep an eye on that. So that's why I kind of prefer the friendly matches, because they're a little bit more streamlined. You don't have people trying to clock you out as aggressively, at least in my experience. Could be wrong. But you normally still face the top tier decks. You don't really find anything else. You haven't missed any of the parts. We literally are just firing it off. Let's see. Let me get this chat window over here so I can see more chat. Oh, we won the dice roll? That's really good because our deck wants to play first as often as possible because we will fall behind quickly. Alright, so this hand is okay. If our opponent's on a really aggressive deck, we can only kill one thing. So say they're on like a mono red or red black shell, it's going to be really hard to deal with multiple threats. But we also have this Glimmer and this Primal Amulet, so we're going to keep this one. There's really not like a more realistically better 7 cards. So we're just going to kind of roll with this. Alright. So we have the Sulphur Falls. We're going to just lead with a Mountain. And pass. So the reason we're going to lead with the Mountain is there's no reason to show them we're on blue mana. And get them prioritizing aggressive plays on turn 1. Okay, Desert of the Mindful. So this is very possibly New Perspectives combo. I'm not exactly sure how that matchup goes because it is a cycling land. Could be another control deck that maybe wants to lean on more deserts, like maybe I've seen some lists. I was originally, when I was building with Nexus of Fate, I wasn't running Fogs. I was running Nexus of Fate with Hour of Promise and just trying to combo out, but let's see. Let's be the friendly people. Alright. The second land should tell us a fair amount, or unless they're missing their second land drop. Oh, that's unfortunate. Well, then this is going to go fairly well. Still don't have a play until turn 4. If they miss the land drop, we could Glimmer to try pressure, but it's not like we have a fast clock. Like, we're not going to just win the games real quickly. So we're actually going to go Primal Amulet because it doesn't look like it's going to get interacted with, and that'll allow us to do more broken things quickly. More importantly, our Nexus of Fates now are turn 6 castable as opposed to something else. Curious Obsession. Okay, so I'm not quite sure what our opponent's on, but we're going to do this. Alright. We also want to get our Primal Amulet to flip as fast as possible, so if we Glimmer first and then we play Primal Amulet, it's going to be just less efficient on getting it flipped, so our Nexus of Fates aren't going to be getting doubled as quickly, and that's what we want to do. Alright. Well, this isn't looking like much of a game. Curious Obsession, I mean, they're obviously running creatures that are running Curious Obsession, so Sweltering Suns could have play, especially if they're trying to throw it on, like, some form of hexproof. Maybe they're blue-green with the horse, so that's worth keeping in mind. So far they're just mono blue. Oh, mono blue, the Jin that gets bigger with your islands. That could be what they're doing. I saw this deck when that first came out. So possibly we should have just cast this Glimmer earlier, but because now it can get countered. Okay. See if they're gonna negate it or Supreme Will, because we don't have the third land to pay for it. On the other side is we have just plenty of time. Wizard's Retort. Okay, so mono blue wizards. That's interesting. So it didn't really matter if we had interaction. We're likely going to cycle the Sweltering Suns. We've accumulated enough interaction that we want to find a way to start pressuring our opponent. Jin. Breach basic land you control. That's fine. So we're going to fight with fire it. The beauty of fight with fire is we can get it back in our deck later with like a commit. Or we can flash it back with an ultimated Jaya, because Jaya ultimates really efficiently whenever you're running Nexus of Fates. Speak of the lady. When I first saw her, I actually played her at a pre-release. Didn't have many ways to really do things with her. I did play Jaya's Emulating Inferno, but we just really wanted to go off with her. We're actually going to play the Jaya. Oh, undo. And the reason we want to do this is right now they're tapped pretty low, and so we're going to be able to plus and kill this Tempest Jin, and she will ultimate fairly soon. So now we can eventually we will be able to just go off with this Nexus of Fate we have in hand. Nexus of Fate, so some of the interactions that are important to understand, because it's an instant. If I'm going to cast Nexus of Fate, we really want to cast it at our upkeep before we draw a card for turn, because it increases the probability we redraw that card. Because now instead of 3 in the deck, we'll have 4. So we're adding an extra card, whatever percentage that is based off the number of cards in the deck at the time. We'd love to see something that doesn't have 4 toughness, so we can fire off one of these removal spells and get another counter on Primal Amulet. Another interaction is you can abrade your Primal Amulet whenever it has 3 counters. So it will flip before a Abrade resolves, and you'll get the land, and Abrade will fizzle, but you'll have your land that you want to have. Jace, Cunning Castaway. Okay. Huh. So we have 2 instants to flip Primal Amulet. It tapped fairly low. I'm going to actually harness Lightning the Illusion, because even though it's going to fizzle, I won't get any energy. It's going to take Primal Amulet to 3, so I can abrade my amulet, it'll flip, and then I will be able to Nexus Fate copied. So we want to do that, so we can immediately start taking these extra turns off Jaya's mana. The spell doesn't have to resolve for the amulet to get the counter. So Jaya is actually going to ultimate fairly soon. And then also because the amulet will be flipped, the Nexus of Fate copy, even if they counter one of the Nexus of Fates, the other Nexus of Fate will resolve. Alright, cool. So we actually hit a land. We're going to play the land. We're going to plus for mana. We're going to target... Oh, well, I should have used some of this mana, but that's fine. And we're going to flip this for sure. Yes. So Abrade fizzles. Add a blue. Blue. So we need to pay 2 more. Probably could have held that land so we could have discarded it to Jaya, but that's okay. So we have 2 extra turns after this one. There's a Supreme Will. So we can cast Supreme Will twice. Let's do that first. Do we want to use this? Yeah. So if we cast Supreme Will without using the Primal, we could still Nexus of Fate. But we have another turn after this one, so I'm going to emphasize getting the Nexus of Fate in hand. So we're going to cast 2 Supreme Wells. If we draw a Nexus of Fate off 1, we'll hold it. We won't cast it this turn. We want Nexus, so we can take 2 additional turns. And then we want... we're going to take the Sweltering Sun so we can cycle it. Don't really care about the order on that. At 3 mana, we won't be able to use it, but we're going to cycle this. Okay. So we're going to go to our last extra turn, and then we're going to put 2 more turns on the stack. We don't want Jaya to go away because we want to keep generating that mana. So we're going to use Nexus of Fate here. Undo. Well, I should have played Prime Amulet first, but that's okay. Alright, so we get 2 Nexus of Fates. So we have 2 turns after this one. We're going to go and cycle this. So next turn we're going to ultimate Jaya, and this way we can flashback Fight with Fire. And then we have another turn after that. Alright, so -8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And Fight with Fire costs 9 to kick. Land. Yeah, so do I 10 damage? Okay. So we're going to use, yeah, so we're kicking it. And are we short of mana? Oh, well, cancel. So in that case, we will Glimmer, because we still have another turn after this one. So it doesn't really matter. We get to Glimmer twice. The next turn will be all plus Jaya, generate mana, and then combo. Bottom. Oh, we draw 2 lands. Next set. Bottom. Okay. Play Primal Amulets. Okay, so we're going to go to our extra turn. And then Jaya's mana plus Primal Amulet's going to be enough. Oh, they should have done that a long time ago. Yeah, waiting to do that is not the best. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we're just going to deal it all there. We still have a mana floating. Same targets. So we go 10 and 10. Cool. So next time I play this deck, I will take the time to keep track of how many extra turns I got. I did not... Oh wait, I didn't mean to do that. Wait, I don't actually know what their plan is. I think we can bring in these hours and take out this Abrade, bring in Negates, and trim Sweltering Suns. And trim a Harness, submit this. Because they're going to bring in definitely a control package, and so far we've only seen the Djinn, so I'm not really sure that we're going to be able to interact with the other creatures. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. We are playing... thank you. This deck is sweet. This deck is awesome. I think this deck is actually better than the Bant Fog deck. The pros played the Bant Fog deck, but the reason I think this is better is the Bant Fog deck has so many bad cards. Like, You're running a lot of bad cards to make that deck work, but I think this deck works just as well, but it gets to run really good cards. You get to run really awesome things like Harness Lightning, Sweltering Suns, Glimmer of Genius. Like, you don't have to choose between the consistent list or the non-consistent list. I think this hand is okay. We might not have wanted these negates because our deck is fairly inevitable, but we will keep. It's a slow hand. If they have the really aggressive start, then this is going to be good, but let's open a memo pad and we're going to keep track of how many turns we take on every game moving forward. Yep. Alright. Okay, so we get a search for Azcanta, which is really useful. Search for Azcanta, like, this might be the second best search for Azcanta deck. The best search for Azcanta deck is definitely Teferi, because the ability to untap Azcanta the Sunken Ruin and activate it a second time is really efficient. But the second best deck, I would say, is this, because you can mill a Nexus of Fate in the early game off the top of your deck. You don't really care. But you also really value the flip into mana because it's a ramp spell, and then later on it finds you more Nexus of Fates. So I think the card's ridiculously strong in this deck. I've debated toying with this deck splashing white. That's a lot of Nexus of Fates for first. Splashing white, because then we could run Teferi and we could just have the best of all the worlds. I just don't know if it's worth it. Jaya is so much more efficient in this streamlined list. It's got a fairly straightforward plan and just a lot of ways to accomplish those plans. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. Curious Obsession. I mean, we have no effects that we're going to be doing. They're going to keep open the gate. We really don't care with Fight with Fire, especially with the Siren, so we're going to get rid of that. Okay, that's a good one. So we can go Island, and we'll keep open Negate next turn. If they tap down and don't keep Negate mana open, we'll go Primal Amulet. If they try to Curious Obsession the Storm Tamer, we might counter that just because we really don't want to contend with the card advantage you'll generate. It's not so much the one extra point of damage. Yeah, so here's our question. They probably have Negate. They passed because I felt like they had Curious Obsession. They thought about doing it last turn, but they kept their 2 mana open. So if I'm waiting on this Negate to resolve something, one of these 4-drops, I'm waiting until turn 6. So that's 6 points of damage, or until 6 turns, or until 6 mana, so that's 3 damage. I think we negate this now, and if they negate back, then that would be amazing for us because then we can Primal Amulet. If they allow that to happen, yeah, perfect. So they did have the negate. That was kind of what we were hoping they would do, is they're trying to force in this card advantage, and then we're going to just stick this Primal Amulet. They do also have Blink of an Eye, so there could be merit in committing. Maybe we want to commit the Siren Storm Tamer. That might be better than Primal Amulet. Because they have a lot of Blink effects. So that Primal Amulet's probably getting bounced. Put Glimmer of Genius in your graveyard. No. We want that card. And we will probably be casting it. But we're going to go ahead while they're tapped down. Get rid of this threat, I think. Yeah, let's go and just get rid of this threat. They spent turn 2 playing Charter Course. Turn 3 playing a Siren Storm Tamer. So I don't really feel like they have a lot of pressure. They probably boarded in a bunch of counter magic. And so if we could just kind of keep them slow, we'll eventually take over the game. If it's not a land, we almost definitely are going to just get rid of whatever card's on top. They definitely have. They also have smaller creatures, so I don't think we really care about our counter magic. We might take that counter magic back out for our red removal spells. Those are probably more important. No, we want lands. Even though it's not the best land, we still need lands. So we're just going to let that be. We'll take the 2, and then we're going to play Glimmer. We did bring in 2 Hour of Devastations, so that could potentially clean up the problem, but they're worse than Sweltering Suns. We had only seen the Djinn, so we weren't really sure how far in they were going. Human Pirates, Siren Pirate Wizard. So they do have Counterspell mana open, but they would have been able to cast that anyway, so there wasn't really a value in casting this in response to the Siren Storm Tamer. Most players allow this kind of card to resolve, and they counter interaction, but some players really like to stay up in cards, so they might counter this Glimmer. If they do, then if we can top deck any interaction, that'll allow us to do that, or we can play Amulet. Yeah, so they're going to negate this. Lookout's Dispersal. Okay. No, I will not pay 4. That's fine. They have really efficient 2-mana counters with Pirates and Wizards combined. Yeah, we don't care about negate. Land. So we're close to going Nexus. So we can actually go... We're looking at taking 3. We're 2 cards away from flipping Search. But now we can actually... We have enough mana to start Nexus of Fating. So we can take 3, take 3 more, and then start casting Nexus of Fates and seeing if they stick. The fact it shuffles back in, even if it's countered, like it doesn't have to resolve to shuffle back in, makes this card just insane. Because if their clock isn't really terrifying, like I'm looking at being at 10 if they don't play anything else scary, then Nexus of Fate is just going to keep going off. Like you don't mind just running it into counter magic, because we don't have a... I think it's Void Shatter was the mana the spell that countered and exiled, or was one of those. We don't have one that will exile the spell that's countering. So we can just keep running into the counter magic, and we really don't care. We'll get it back eventually. Alright, so they're going to keep open their interaction. We're going to graveyard that because we have enough mana to play the Nexus of Fate. Now we definitely have enough mana to play the Nexus of Fate. So we're going to pass, because then they would have wasted their mana for a turn, because they were just sitting back on counter magic, and we're going to hope that they think we're just having nothing. And then they cast like a Djinn, and we can start the chain. We need 1 more card to go in the graveyard to flip our Surge. Nexus of Fate does not do that. You know. Okay. If this gets countered, we can untap and just try it again, if we really want to. Alright, so Wizards of Tort. Shuffles back in. We can untap and go for it again, or we can do it on their turn again. Let's see what we hit. No. Okay, so put Harness Lightning in your graveyard. I think I want that. So we're going to cast the Nexus of Fate here, because we would love for them to try to counter this, and then we get to shoot the Orkite Marauder. And then now we have the Siren, Storm Tamer, and that's not a clock that we care about. A 10-turn clock isn't the scariest thing in the world. Oh, okay. So we're still going to go for this, because we want to get our Primal Amulet count up, and it'll flip our Search next turn if the top card's good, as well as a 5-turn clock is still a fine clock. Oh, okay, so we're just going to be able to kill this Marauder. That's fine also. So now we kill Marauder, and then we are on a 10-turn clock with a search that's flipping. Um, because of the clock we're on, I actually want to play this search. So, no. Yes. So we're going to play the search Rascanta and not flip the second one. So now we can filter our draws all the time, and we're going to replay the Primal Amulet. I feel better about our long game from this current position than theirs, so we aren't going to worry about flashing back this commit to memory for a little while. We can do it if we need to. 5 mana Time Twister, still pretty good. Let's see, Sky Plunder. Alright, deals combat damage. So it's a 2 mana flying pirate. That's really all it is. I don't think they're going to have anything that worries about counters. So our clock goes back to a 3-turn clock. That's okay. We have filtering, and we have this Azcanta to go find things. Put that in the graveyard, yes. Flip, no. We're going to hold this land, because if we hit a Jaya, then we want to be able to discard this. Do we want to activate this now? If we activate this now and we hit a Jaya, we can't cast it without playing this land, so we're just going to wait and do it on their turn. There's a high number of cards in my deck that I'm going to take over an instant speed removal spell, so that's why I'm not going to really concern myself with activating Azcanta pre-combat. Especially now they have this other Storm Chamber. I want to do this instead. See if they maybe play a Djinn. Because then if they play a Djinn, that tells me that I want to take an Hour of Devastation over anything else. Even a Nexus of Fate, because that would put me far ahead if I play a Djinn. And if I play an Hour of Devastation and resolve it. Alright, so we want to activate this. All these cards are colorless. Alright, so what do we have? Well, we have Nexus of Fate, so we just take Nexus of Fate. Put the rest back in any order. We love the Jaya, but Nexus of Fate's more important. The reason we go any order is because if we play the Nexus of Fate, our deck's going to shuffle anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Put Supremo into your graveyard. No, I like Supremo. So let's actually play this Supremo for really cheap. So I can still play the Nexus of Fate. That's not tremendous. We'll take another Supreme Will. We don't need another Amulet, really. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do we want to take 4? It's not like they have any form of instant speed damage, so I think we do. I think we want to take 4, and I think we actually want to Supreme Will and search Razcanta. 1, 2. I mean, I guess we could Supreme Will now, but let's just pass. We have the option to Nexus of Fate at the end of their turn, and if they counter it, we can Supreme Will and try to find another Nexus of Fate. So, I think that's okay. I'm okay going to 2 against the blue deck. Djinn is fine. Alright, cool. So, we're not going to counter the Djinn. We could counter the Djinn, but we're really set up to go off, and so I want to just go off. The Djinn doesn't really change the clock, and we are kind of swapped in what our answers are. So, we really just want to combo now. So we're going to Nexus of Fate at the end step. So we get to take 2 turns in a row. We're looking for Nexus of Fates and Jayas. What card's on top? Negate, put that away, we don't want it. No, we don't want to flip. There's a Jaya. Alright, so we have 2 turns in a row. That's really good. I'm gonna +1 and discard this mountain to windmill it, because we want a Supreme Will anyway. Done. Okay, so there's a Sulfur Falls. So we're gonna Supreme Will, see what we hit. We might play this land if we hit like another Supreme Will. We're gonna take this Hour of Devastation. Any order. So there's no reason to play the Sulfur Falls. So we have 1 more turn left. We'll put that Hour of Devastation in the graveyard. No, we don't want to flip. So we can +1 and discard Primal Amulet Sulfur Falls. And we get a Nexus. So how do we want to do this? Okay, so we can Harness Lightning this Jin. That's going to flip our Primal Amulet. And then we can Nexus of Fate, take 2 additional turns. And then we've set up our eventual win. So we pretty much win this turn. Okay. Yes. Okay, so now we go blue, blue, 2. Alright, yeah, so we win. We don't actually need this Hour of Devastation. So we're going to take 2 additional turns after this one. 1 Jaya goes to 8. Already activated her. The next turn, she ultimates, and we flashback Fight with Fire for 20. No, we'll take the mountain. +1, discard the Hour of Devastation. We'll go and set ourselves up to take multiple extra turns. Alright. And we are going to win again. Okay, tapped 1 too many. So we have 3 turns after this one. Put Giant in the graveyard. No, we don't want to flip. -8 for the emblem. And then Fight with Fire with Cast with Kicker. Targeting here. Okay. And we're going to tap for red so it copies. Cool. So we deal 20 to our opponent. Wait, what? Did I not tap that right? Should have cast that twice. Okay, well we still have 2 turns. Put that in the graveyard. No. Okay, so we have more than 2 turns. So let's go ahead and Nexus of Fate. Alright, so now we have a pretty fair amount of turns stacked up. Alright, so we're going to activate Azcanta. Not sure how that didn't work. We'll take this Worthless Syncopate in any order. So next turn we can commit to memory to find our other Fight with Fire if necessary. No, we actually want Jaya. No, we don't want to flip. That's weird. I'm not sure exactly why that works that way, but that's fine. Add 3 red. Cast. Alright, so we're going to cast Memory. We don't want to use our Primal Well, because that's not a spell we want to copy. And then we'll be able to next turn use Jaya's +1 cycle cards to find what we need. Okay, we also have an Hour of Devastation if necessary. We can play a land. We can activate Azcanta. Take Supreme Will. Any order. That's weird. I'm sure I tapped something wrong. Put that in the graveyard. Alright. So we're going to discard Syncopate, Jaya, Primal Amulet, draw 3 cards. We will cast Nexus of Fate. Just to make sure we're going to go infinite on turns. And then we can Supreme Will. We'll take Glimmer. Any order. And I don't think we have another plate. No, so we pass. No, we actually want Supremo, because Supremo replaces pretty well. So we're gonna discard again. 1, 2, 3. Still looking. So Supreme Will. There's Fight with Fire. Any order. Just to make sure, because I'm not actually keeping track. In a tournament, you'll want to keep track how many turns you have left. But in this setting, I don't care as much, because Magic will take care of it for me. Alright, then we pass turn. Okay, and we Fight with Fire again. No, doesn't really matter. Add red mana. Add red mana. Cool. So we win both games pretty easily. The flipped Primal Wellspring is just insane. So we are up 1-0. This deck is fun. Blue-red is easily my favorite archetype. Just easily.